Sheila, I'm really excited to do this with you. Thank you.
Thank you for having me, Barbara.
I love that I get to help you share your journey, because you interviewed me recently, and I was like, yay, the shoe's on the other foot now.
Exactly.
And I love, so you and I have shared a lot of this journey, you know, of stepping onto our spiritual path and purpose together. And I've loved watching you evolve and grow and become brave. And I really feel a lot of people are really going to resonate with what you've gone through. And to share that. So thank you for saying yes for that. So what was life like for you before you discovered any of this, like spiritual realm, angels, guides, you know, any of that stuff? What was it like before?
It's interesting. I think life before, I'd call it ordinary, and I'd say I felt really lost. So I had this nagging feeling before I started doing intuitive work that there was something more for me. And so I'm a chartered accountant. I've done an MBA. I've held pretty senior positions in quite large companies, managed big teams. And I felt like I was doing my spiritual work in managing people and working alongside colleagues. But I'd come home and I would, you know, read tarot books, and I'd watch YouTube videos about spiritualism, and I would, you know, I kind of dabble in, but I always felt, I don't know if it was guilty, or I felt there was something bigger out there, but I didn't feel brave enough or courageous enough to really venture forward and to ask the bigger questions myself. So a lot of little workshops pushed me along, you know, meditating, and I started to, you know, do a little bit more meditating. But just to answer your question, Barbara, I think I was a little lost. I was probably working a lot from logical and left mind in my decision-making skills. So not all my decisions were sound and grounded. They were probably a little bit more influenced by belief sets, influence from family, influence around my own conditioning, my own expectations I set for myself. My intuition was there, but probably kept down at times. So I wasn't always making the best decisions.
I think a lot of people are going to resonate with that feeling of just something else. It's like, you know, or that lost feeling, even in terms of work being unfulfilled, or socially feeling a little bit different, and just could never really put your finger on it. I know what you mean about the left brain. My husband's an accountant. I get it.
Yep.
Always about balance, and that.
Absolutely.
So, where are you now? What part of your journey are you on now? For those who
that's a great question. That's a great question. What part of the journey are we ever on? I read a quote recently that the spiritual journey has no kilometres, has no distance. So I couldn't tell you where I am. I'd like to think the beginning, because it would mean there's a long road ahead. That's very exciting. I'm a lot further on than I was, you know, 10, 20 years ago, when I started having this nagging feeling that there's more there. Where am I now? I've started my business. I'm doing readings for people. You know, I'm loving healing, connecting, empowering people to discover their own truth. And so I've incorporated, I feel like my soul calling is now really a part of my life. So I'm doing that in corporate world, and I'm also doing that in my own psychic mediumship business. So, and I'm also doing that in my relationships with my family. So I think when you start tapping into your intuition, it doesn't just touch one part of your life. I mean, I always had a desire to read for people, and my psychic gifts come through my mother's side of the family. So that, I think, was always a foundation that I would, you know, delve into. And I always thought it would be a bit compartmentalized into, I would work in that space. But I'm realizing when you open that door, it just affects every part of your life.
Absolutely. I think you don't realize how much it becomes you, or you step into your own power in that. So in terms of intuitive abilities, you know, there's so many different senses and ways that you can tap into your intuition. Have you identified where your strongest senses are?
Yeah, definitely. My strongest sense is definitely my clairvoyance. I'm clear seeing, and I don't know if that's because I'm logical and that's the way spirit's presented information to me. I get very clear thoughts. I'm quite a clear thinker in the corporate world, and thus spirit works with us with our own natural gifts and ways of operating. and I'm clairaudient, so I hear as well. And as a reader and anyone on the intuitive path, I think if you've been doing this for 30, 40 years, you're still developing. So all my senses with each client I have develop and grow. And that's the mutual exchange that you have with clients.
Yes.
I'm also a medium. So on my mother's side of the family, there've been experiences of mediumship. So I'm the one that's actually, in my mother's side, that's taken that forward. And I'm working with that, which feels brave, because that's doing something different from what my family's done, even though the gifts have been there. But, you know, the mediumship work I love. I love connecting with someone's passed over loved one and bringing through the messages. It's so healing, so healing.
It is. It is really a gift. It's a gift. That is ultimately, I think, the gift, and it's something tangible as well. And on your journey into exploring the mediumship, you know, you've trained with Arthur Finlay College in the UK. Now, there's some mega mediums, you know, excuse that pun, have really come out of that space. So what did you get out of that experience?
Well, that's a really good point. And you touched on that, Barbara, where you, on your spiritual path, when you open the door, the next 4 doors open for you. Yeah. So when I discovered I was a medium, I had this quest for knowledge, quest for knowing. I read every book, you know, you could read, started to do a lot more workshops. And then someone randomly said to me, you know, the best college in the world for mediumship studies is outside of London. Yeah. So I looked it up, booked, and went within months. And the teachers there are phenomenal. You really learn how to craft your capabilities, and you are shown and taught, you know, the best methods to bring through information, because the basis is the best you can be for your clients. You're doing the work of service for spirit and God. So it is imperative that we work on ourselves. So there's twofold, I guess, answer to that. The college was amazing. The teachers there are amazing. You're on your spiritual path and you know you have mediumship skills, find yourself going to that college. I'm going back in September as well. So you just connect with like-minded people and teachers. But, you know, if it isn't mediumship, it's another gift. And there's so many gifts that can exist. Seek out a way to learn more about it. Seek out teachers. Seek it out, and it will come to you. It just will.
Awesome. And I loved when we were talking about your experience there previously, how you know, your connection with spirit and past over loved ones, you know, it comes through in really concrete ways, you know. So if I am having a session with you, it's a medium session, like I have no doubt as to who it is in spirit world. It's not vague, you know, it's really quite clear. And that gives people a lot of peace of mind. What medium space, what has, you know, surprised you about the people on the other side who you've connected with, and what are they here to share?
That's a really great question. Actually, no one's ever asked me that. I think when I reflect back on sort of the people that have stepped forward for me when I've done readings, it never ceases to amaze me the level of energy and the characters you get in grandparents that are passed over. We get conditioned in our mind that people look and feel a certain way, and you know, they might be more introverted or quiet, and you have to let logical mind step out of the way when you're bringing through a passed over loved one. And so the level of energy, enthusiasm and extroversion, and they also might present a younger version of themselves. So the joy that brings some of my clients, they're also reflecting not as a passed over loved one at the end of their life, but I remember the good times when there was vibrancy, or, you know, a happy memory for them. And then the second point, and it's very healing. And a second point, Barbara, is around when I bring through someone, a lot of love comes through, and it's really opened my eyes that when someone passes over to the other side, a lot of the conditioning and a lot of the belief sets that might have made life a bit challenging or difficult in physical space fall away. And when they come through, it tends to be the fullest expression of love a lot of the time. And it's made me open my heart while I'm here physically to learn how to fully express myself physically, emotionally, through voice, through words I'm saying. I'm working on my thoughts. So, you know, we're all a work in progress, but just seeing that other side has made me very aware of calm living.
And that's beautiful. And it's a beautiful gift of peace and healing that you're giving, you know, in those sessions. You know, for you having the courage to step onto this path has brought so much healing to people, which is beautiful.
Absolutely. And I think the path is hard when you step onto it at times. And so, you know, that is the reward. It's a big reward.
And how long has it taken you to kind of find the courage to actually say to people publicly that this is what you do? You know, like there's a space where you can do it, you know, in the spiritual world and others who are unfolding with you, but then to bring it out, especially in the whole accountant space, you know, and into that logical community. How have you found the courage to do that?
Oh, it's taken me a long time. Very shrouded in secrecy at the beginning. I wouldn't talk about it. You know, people said, what are you doing on the weekends? I'd say, oh, a workshop, or I wouldn't say anything, you know, a spiritual type workshop. And then as time's gone on and there's more evidence around my abilities and I'm starting to really connect with it, I found I would start to open up to people I felt I could trust were open to spiritual work. And then in managing a team, I found it hard to open up because, you know, you wonder what your staff will think about you. And most recently, before I went to the Arthur Finlay College, I mean, I was going on annual leave for a week. So I had to tell everyone where I was going. And I was really honest. And people were just the ones that really resonated with were very open and inspired and intrigued and asked questions. And if people don't, that's okay as well. But I felt the biggest weight lifted when I started to tell people at work. So I thought, why have two lives? Why get to the weekend and have your secret life you live on the weekend, then have your corporate life? They can integrate. It's an unusual skill, but I don't think it's that different from being a professional of any kind on the weekend in a sporting space. It's just a love you have, and it's something you want to do with your life.
Yeah, and I think that's so true. I think for me, it took a lot of courage to come out of like the psychic closet as well. I really put a parallel there in terms of what people have to go through to show a side of themselves, and you worry so much about what people are going to say about you, what they think, and ironically, it never really happens. You know, and you have an event and it's more fun because people are like, oh, can't you tell me what's going to happen in this situation?
Oh, you always get asked that, you know. Bring your cards around, Sheila. I'm like, okay. And even coming out with your family is another big one, because a part of you rationalizes. I don't know what, you know, people watching this video, part of you thinks, okay, my friends aren't supportive, they'll, you know, I can move away, but your family's blood and they're always there. First, I found, you know, all my friends, every single one of them supportive. And I've grown closer to every one of them because I'm being authentic with myself. That helps the depth of the friendship there. And with my family, I mean, I think my family said to me, you know, we support you through everything. And so they've really been supportive that I'm doing what I want to do, which has made me really happy.
And that's awesome. And I know you do, so you've studied Reiki, and, you know, you've really, it's given you a lot. So where can Reiki come into this for people who maybe have heard of Reiki but don't really know what it is?
Well, I think that's a good question. I think what happens on the spiritual path, or any kind of transformation where you don't want to be entirely where you are and you want to be in a different space. And if you're taking the first few steps, I think it's about just starting to explore what your gifts might be and start doing the workshops. And you'll get messages. So I mean, I think in a couple of weeks I got told, you know, about Reiki a few times. A girl gave me an email address to a fantastic teacher. At that point in time, I thought, I don't want to do Reiki. But then I started getting shown a lot of messages. You need to do Reiki. It's a part of your path to be a physical, you know, the physical healing side. So I mean, I love healing through words, through energy, but I also love the, you know, holistic practice of energy healing.
Great.
So I think what I'm learning on my path is how to integrate that. And, you know, and I've also got an interest in crystals as well, which at one point in time, 5 years ago, I'd roll my eyes about crystals. It's funny, you can do it, you do backflips and things. I mean, I just thought nothing, and I've got an amethyst cave that's, you know, cost me a lot of money that I love, and I never thought I would love crystals, but I'm just so drawn to them now. So I think, you know, as time goes on, more doors open, and you start, the layers unpeel and you unravel. And you start to learn more. And you know, you asked me earlier where I am on my path. I think there's just so much I'm going to learn, so much more. I've learned a lot already, but, you know, it's a long road.
That's brilliant. I love that about the crystals, because I was very similar. I was like, what's the deal with this crystal stuff? Or even sage, even using sage. I was like, why is everyone using sage? Now I know.
I know. Now we know. I know.
So if you were to go
now
back,
we don't know how.
yeah,
I was going to say, now we don't know how we didn't know.
exactly.
It's like when you know something, you can't unknow it.
Hindsight is great. And so if you were to go back to yourself 4 years ago, to Sheila 4 years ago,
Yeah.
with that sense of knowing that there was something more, maybe stuff was starting to come up for you then, what are the 3 tips that you'd give to yourself, you know, given all that you've learned, to help you become more of you and who you're meant to be here?
Yep, great question. I would tell a younger self, and anyone listening out there, to try and find the courage. And how can you find the courage? Think about what kind of small steps you can take to come out of the closet, or to what there is to learn. Start opening the doors and stepping through them. I wish I'm going to say I wish I'd done that a little earlier, but I'll come to that at the end. Okay. I'd read voraciously. I'm a big reader. I mean, I've worked in publishing for 10 years. So I'm focused on books and audio. So find as many teachers, and they don't have to be physically near you. Read, listen, and learn, and ask as many questions, because you have to just expand your mind. That's when you learn about the crystals and things you didn't think you might be into. Thirdly, surround yourself by community and like-minded people. They're going to be at different stages in their path, and they will tell you, they'll help you along the way. I've only but found complete support. I think, you know, I found brave enough, my bravery to come out and do readings and go to the college and continue on my path is because there were people ahead of me telling me that I could do it. People behind me sort of saying, hey, you're amazing. So this is a community of support. But probably the 4th point I would make, Barbara, is if I look back at me 4 years ago, I would also say you are also where you're supposed to be. And I look back and I think, could I have accelerated this process? I don't know if I could have.
Okay. Yeah.
And I'm reading a book at the moment called The Anatomy of a Calling. And there's a paragraph I just read last night that talks about when you're in that in-between place where you can't make a decision or you don't know where to go, sometimes the universe will just let you sit there. And I think maybe I was allowed to sit there for a while, because it may have been a bit uncomfortable to make the shift. And I don't know if I was emotionally ready. But no, if you've got a calling, the universe will help you make the shift eventually. So 4 years ago,
and that's cool, because sometimes it can be a bit of a roller coaster. Sometimes when you take that first step, it can happen so fast, and then it'll be a little bit quieter. But the quiet times I've learned are to allow you develop and grow yourself more, to then be of a higher service.
Absolutely.
And that's why I love the word journey. This is not about any destination. No one's any better than anyone else. It's just that bravery and that courage to
absolutely,
to express a bit more. So that's cool. Well, what I'm going to be doing, Sheila, is connecting people with your website, with the Awaken with Sheila, which I love. Find out a bit more and stay connected. But thank you for having the courage to be you, and for doing this, because I think there's a lot of people, particularly with your background in corporate and like with the logical brain. I've met a lot of people in sessions and at events, you know, it's similar to you, and they haven't yet found your courage. So I think sharing your story will really empower them and inspire them to do a little bit more at the time that's right.
That means a lot, Barbara. Thank you, because you're right, it does take courage, and you don't know what the road ahead will entail, but you just start to trust your intuition, don't you? And that's the biggest thing.
Yes, that's it. It's trust is the biggest ingredient, I think, that you need to have. Yeah. That's awesome.
You've been fantastic, Barbara. Thank you.